Starship's first orbital-class booster returns to the launch pad. More missions are right around the corner. Sexual harassment allegations are aimed at SpaceX. And we finish with today's honorable mention. I'm Kevin, and this is SpaceX in the News. This will be the last episode of the year, but before we get to it, a word from our sponsor, my Patriot Supply. Okay, so not only is inflation not transitory and climbing with no end in sight, thanks to irresponsible money printing and people staying home and not working due to government handouts causing wages to go up and just so employers can hire employees, which is driving up costs of goods and services. And yeah, our broken supply chain. But with all that, now comes winter. And we all remember what happened last year in Texas, don't we? So may I ask, if you haven't already, you consider purchasing an emergency food kit from my Patriot Supply. Right now, you can save $100 on a 3-month food kit, chock full of meals averaging 2,000 calories per day, and they last up to 25 years. I see mine as an investment into a little peace of mind for me and my family during these uncertain times. Go to preparewithspace.com, link below in the description to secure your order now. That's preparewithspace.com. Let's do this. What Elon calls Stage 0, referring to the ground systems like the pad and tower, have been built up enough to welcome back Booster 4, which was removed from the pad months ago to allow for the installation of the arms and quick disconnect systems. On Monday, 4 was moved from the launch site to the launch site, but closer to the launch pad, where it was then lifted up and plopped down on the orbital launch table, its testing regimen closing in. Just yesterday, pad venting was seen by Lab Padres cameras, and more testing commenced this morning. Soon, or eventually, SpaceX will static fire its 29 Raptor engines, however not necessarily all at once at first. But a series of events SpaceX has never attempted before, nonetheless. Prompting Elon to tell Time magazine in a recent on-location interview, quote, "If one engine catches fire, we want to ensure that fire does not spread through the entire volume," seemingly not convinced the engine shields will be enough. Here are the local road closures currently scheduled for the rest of the month at this time, subject to change of course. Print it off, stick it on your fridge, I don't care. The wife might though, but it's none of her business, they're not for her. Starship 20 has had its lifting pins removed this week. The gaps will soon be replaced with the last of its heat shield tiles as the first orbital launch closes in. Still expected to be in January or February, according to SpaceX's own Tom Ochinero, speaking at the 2021 World Satellite Business Week conference. He also said the company has been actively marketing the vehicle to commercial customers, some of whom have signed up, and that they are talking with insurance providers, but since the first orbital flights will be Starlink missions, the risk will be reduced by the time they get around to flying customers. Elon says SpaceX is finally getting around to addressing in-situ refueling of Starship. That will be imperative to get people back to Earth after landing on Mars. It involves electrolysis and a Sabatier process, freaking French words, of taking hydrogen atoms, H, from water molecules, H2O, and combining it with carbon dioxide, CO2, in the atmosphere to make CH4, which is methane, which is what Starship runs on.
Yes, science!
Chemistry, kids. Ain't it fun? Spoiler, only in the movies. It's not just math, it's semiotics, which basically means it's witchcraft. If it doesn't kill you, it will kill your grade. Run for your lives.
I am the one who knocks.
There's still much to be done, but Starship has potential. It could one day be the modern-day Noah's Ark. Perhaps that's what Paul meant when he wrote 1 Thessalonians 4:17. We're gonna party on Mars with Jesus!
I'm definitely gonna die up here if I have to listen to any more god-awful disco music.
In response to an inquiry from SpaceX, NASA is preparing to conduct an environmental assessment at Kennedy Space Center, Florida in 2022 for the development of a proposed launch and landing site for future Starship missions, known as Launch Complex 49. The 175-acre site, located north of Launch Complex 39B within the center's security perimeter, would support the launch and landing of the company's Starship and Super Heavy launch vehicle. NASA and SpaceX are moving forward with the initial environmental analysis before concluding a potential agreement to develop the property. Last week, Elon said construction of a similar but improved Starship launch complex has begun at the Cape. NASA has assigned 2 of their astronauts to Crew 6. Stephen Bowen and Woody Hoberg will serve as commander and pilot respectively, and are expected to launch in 2023 on a Falcon 9. Their international crew members will be selected at a later date as mission specialists. The agency also announced that they've selected Axiom Space for the second private crewed mission to the ISS. AX-2 is targeting between the fall of next year and spring of 2023 for liftoff. Astronauts will spend no more than 2 weeks at the space station, where they will partake in scientific research and outreach activities. Its predecessor, AX-1, is scheduled to launch no earlier than February 21st on Dragon. But first, we have to finish the mission cadence for 2021. Tonight, SpaceX will launch another flock of 52 1.5 Starlink satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base at 1:24 a.m. local time, hugging the coastline to place them in a 53-degree orbital shell which will be the first for the west side. Then another Falcon mission, Turksat 5B from the east side, is set to launch for tomorrow night. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. It might even be reassigned by the time I get this video out. Followed by the 24th Cargo Dragon resupply mission to the ISS on the 21st. Elon was made Times Person of the Year for 2021, and during one of their interviews was asked why he, unlike Branson and Bezos, has yet to fly to space on one of his rockets.
I will go up at some point. I mean, there is an underlying philosophy by which I aspire to guide my actions, and that is to take the set of actions that maximize the probability that the future is good. The point of SpaceX is to help make humanity a spacefaring civilization and ultimately a multi-planet species, so as to expand the scope and scale of consciousness and ultimately better understand what questions to ask about the answer, which is the universe.
Or perhaps Elon's afraid that one of his own employees may sabotage his rocket. Just months after Blue Origin was hit with claims of sexual harassment and hosting an unsafe work environment, this week allegations of sexual harassment have arrived at SpaceX's doorstep from multiple women after they published an article sharing their experiences as SpaceX employees. I thought it important to tell you about this news because, well, this is SpaceX in the news after all, but also, if true, it needs to be addressed. But I do recommend you read for yourself what they wrote. While some of what is written is concerning and worth looking into, many of the issues brought up I just found odd. For example, one woman wrote that men touched her in inappropriate places while working as an intern for the company, and while despite reporting it to Human Resources, nothing was done about it. Okay, yeah, if that's true, those pervs need to be taken down. As a former doorman for a bar, I've thrown my fair share of drunks face first into the pavement for doing such things. But then they go on to talk about how men would hug women in the workplace or stare at them. Okay, I mean, yeah, creepy for sure, but you're losing me a bit here. I created a plan that would bring SpaceX to full carbon neutrality by 2030. Elon Musk dismissed it. Right, now sirens are wailing for anyone who has paid attention to the news for the past 5 years. Carbon neutrality by 2030 is the agenda of the far left and the part of the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. And no, while one's political views is not a litmus test for how honest someone is, recent history does tell us one can't just ignore potential political motivations when it comes to these kind of allegations. One of these women also wrote how Elon reminds her of an abusive man once a part of her life. So now it sounds like she has a personal vendetta against the other sex. And how SpaceX president Gwen Shotwell, who I always took for a left-leaning feminist I could respect, didn't really do anything to help these women. These whistleblowers are also saying that non-binary people, SJW term for those who haven't come to terms with their biologically assigned sex, are being harassed at SpaceX too. So yeah, this whole thing seems a bit sketch to say the least. After all, this year Elon has become public enemy number one for the political left. And certainly the rampant Me Too hypocrisy that has been exposed on the left in the recent past isn't doing real victims of sexual harassment any favors these days, nor are the frauds of the past. However, that's not to say that these claims of unwanted solicitation from male colleagues aren't true. In a male-dominated industry, they very well could be. And that would be a very terrible thing that needs to be addressed. But clearly in this case, like everything else, it would be foolish and dangerous to believe everything you hear, no questions asked, like how the mods on the SpaceX Reddit page are running things. To this day, Brett Kavanaugh would have been labeled a rapist had nobody questioned his accusers, which is also why the motto, "Believe all women," quickly fizzled out. No reasonable person would read what these women wrote and call them liars. But asking questions is what intelligent people do. The alternative is to believe everything you hear, or think you know everything. Simpletons do that. It's like the lab leak theory, turned lab leak fact. Asking questions does not make you a bigot, but not asking questions does make you a fool. That's how the truth is uncovered, and the truth matters no matter what it is. Despite any involvement with SpaceX HR, we don't have the whole story with these articles. It's just not clear who or what to believe anymore in a country where people with a political agenda have made similar accusations, only to turn out to be completely false. A country where everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Hopefully, in the end, any wrongs that were made are righted and lessons are learned. Now it's time for today's honorable mention. On Saturday, Blue Origin launched their first fully booked New Shepard rocket to the edge of space. The capsule contained Alan Shepard's eldest daughter. Alan, of course, was the first human American to go to space in the 60s on a Mercury Redstone, and whom this rocket is named after. Like her father's, this too was a ride of the suborbital variety. On board was also that Michael guy from that one morning show, and 4 other people whose names I didn't bother to learn because I'm ready to go on a semi-holiday. The virus booster infected our hearts with a smooth landing in the West Texas desert, followed by shoots, brah, and a soft poof down in the dirt. Hey, congratulations, you all escaped death. Now let's call it a day, people. But before we do, I just want to quickly inform you that this channel was invited to locals. So I humbly accepted and took my place as a confused little hobbit among powerful orc giants. You can join our community by using the link in the description below. Locals is a free speech platform for freedom-loving people, and one that allows us to interact with each other and share content void of big tech censorship. Censorship that suppresses truth in exchange for the opinions of progressive fact checkers. Have a nominal Christmas. Until next year, Godspeed.